Hey guys, today I'm going to be reviewing season 1 of Marie Antoinette. So, before I head into my thoughts and feelings on Marie Antoinette, I'm going to definitely have spoilers in here, but for the most part, I don't consider history to be a spoiler, even though this show definitely kind of plays around with the history and it definitely takes its liberties. Still, there are definitely those kernels of historical truth definitely in there. So I'm still going to be talking about spoilers. So you have been warned. If you have not seen this first season of Marie Antoinette, come back at a later point. So, what is Marie Antoinette about? It follows a young Marie Antoinette who was originally a princess of Austria. Then she comes on over to marry the future King Louis XVI of France. And this show is pretty much going into her marriage with him, all of the issues with her in-laws, issues with her mother, her issues within the French court, all that good stuff. So this was 8 episodes, which I think was a really good amount of time. I'll kind of get into one thing in particular. I was a bit frustrated with this show that maybe it could have benefited from 10 episodes, but for the most part, 8 was fine. And for some reason, I was under the belief that this show was going to be all in French, like with subtitles, and it's not. Even though it is a French production, it's still all done in English, which is similar to what was going on with the TV show Versailles. Versailles focused on like the young Louis XIV, the Sun King, if you will, and the creation of Versailles. And I believe some of the creative team from the Versailles TV show did have involvement in this show, and I think it shows because there were things about Marie Antoinette, this show, that seemed very reminiscent to the Versailles show, which I was all for because I loved Versailles. That being said, I do think Versailles at the moment is the far superior show than this show, but if this does have multiple seasons, I mean, who knows? It could get just better and better and better and go above and beyond Versailles. Who knows? Seriously, I loved Versailles. I highly recommend it. If you liked Marie Antoinette, you'll definitely love Versailles. So for the most part, I did thoroughly enjoy this show. I don't think it's necessarily perfect in places. I do think there are a few little hitches here and there. Once again, I'll kind of get into my big complaint with the show. But for the most part, I really enjoyed it. I think the pacing was nice at times. I think the writing and directing, there was something about the writing and directing that often felt a little like chaotic, but the more I kind of thought about it, I was like, I think there's deliberate chaos within the writing and directing, because here you are in the French court and there's just all this kind of chaos and frivolity more than anything. And I do think the writing and the directing kind of reflected that frivolity and chaoticness of the French court during this time period. I liked the costuming. Once again, the costuming probably not 100% accurate, but still it looks believable to the time period. And I loved the colorfulness of the costuming. There's just something about the costuming that felt very blue. Was it just me? I felt like there was a lot of blue going on in this show. Not just maybe in the costuming, but also just kind of in the background. Just a lot of like light shades of blue. The show had a nice like color scheme to it that I was vibing with. But yeah, I like the costuming. As always with shows like this, I always really like the hair and makeup. I don't know what it is about the French court. The French court, I think, notoriously during this time period, they had the big, huge hair, and like Marie Antoinette at one point has like that ship in her hair, and yeah, the makeup. I always like the makeup because the makeup is just always. I hate the makeup. That being said, I know that sounds like I'm contradicting myself. I like the makeup because of how bad it kind of is. Because, yeah, this time period, like there was like that really thick like white makeup and powder, and yeah, kind of the over rouging of the cheeks and having the lipstick, and then yeah, because there's so much makeup, like in the hairline you see like the cracks and the flaws in the makeup. So yeah, I hate the makeup during this time period because it is just so gaudy, but the thing is, it works. The show is reflecting kind of that gaudiness of the makeup, I think. Now, like I said, there is one thing that I was having an issue with this show. My biggest point of complaint, I think, with this show is definitely the timeline of this show. Um, by the time we get to the end of this first season, 10 years have gone by, and it doesn't really look it, if that makes any sort of sense. It doesn't really look it, nor does it really even feel it. Um, like, for instance, at some point, I guess kind of maybe they're near the middle, at some point, Marie Antoinette's mother is, she's griping like, I haven't had a grandchild yet, this and that, you need to produce an heir. And then, yeah, once Marie Antoinette does produce an heir, then, yeah, her mother is sitting there griping again, like, it took you 7 years, it took you long enough, do I gotta wait another 7 years for you to produce the spare? So, when that line of dialogue happened, it kind of shocked me for a minute, because I was like, wait, 7 years has gone by? And then once again, at the very end, all of a sudden it's 10 years, because I do believe someone mentions something about, oh, it's been a decade, something, something, something. And I was shocked again. I was like, wait, we've gone through a decade on this show? So that was really definitely my big issue of complaint with this show, that I don't think they did a good job with the timeline, because it all felt like it was taking place within maybe just a year or two, so I wish the show could have made it a little bit more clear and had like dates. Even if they just had some dates, I wish they had some dates that popped up occasionally to let you know, hey, we're in another year. So yeah, I think the show definitely did poorly on that, because I never got the sense that time had gone by. I mean, I guess you can say within the performances, because Amelia Schul plays Marie Antoinette and Louis Cunningham plays Louis XVI. I mean, I guess from their performances alone, you could gather that there had been time that had gone on, because my understanding, the real historical Marie Antoinette and King Louis, because I was trying to do some quick research before doing this video, they got married at a very, very young age. I think she was 14 and he was 15, and I think Louis Cunningham and Amelia Schul did a good job of showing them as teenagers. Because, yeah, Amelia Schul especially, I mean, she just seemed like a wild and crazy, rambunctious teenage girl. She just wants to have fun and party, I think you definitely got that at the beginning with her. And then, yeah, Louis Cunningham showcasing a Louis who is really shy and timid, and he just has no interest in girls at the moment. He'd much rather hang around with his animals and stuff like that, So I do think they did a good job there presenting them playing like 14 and 15 years old. And then I definitely did get the sense that a little bit of time had gone by, because then as Amelia Schul was kind of portraying Marie Antoinette, then like Marie Antoinette, even though she was still really kind of just all over the place and really girlish and just wanting to have fun and party, the thing is there was still a bit more of a maturity there, and I guess a self-consciousness, and then, yeah, I think Louis Cunningham, definitely him getting Louis into a much more confident, comfortable place, so I do think you could kind of see it within their individual performances, that bit of time going on, but once again, it didn't feel like a decade's worth of time. It felt like more like just a year or two worth of time. So if I had to complain about one thing about the show, it was definitely just the timeline. Like I said, I never felt like a decade had gone by, because, yeah, we start in, what, 1770, and then we end in 1780. So what I enjoyed in particular about this show, I am a sucker when it comes to like the politics. I love when people are just in a room talking about politics, like, oh, we're gonna have trouble with this and that, we're gonna have to go to war with these people, we gotta appease these people, I always love when people are in rooms talking about politics. I loved all of the family drama. Louis' family are just a bunch of eccentric, weird people. I always loved seeing the drama there within the family, and, yeah, Marie Antoinette just not liking any of them, and they in turn do not like her. I mean, it's vicious, the hate in this family is just absolutely vicious, and nobody likes each other whatsoever, and they make it very public and well known, hey, we don't like you. And I also highly enjoyed all the marital drama going on in this show. Obviously, the marital drama going on between Louis and Marie Antoinette was really fascinating. And yeah, even Josephine and Provence, I liked their drama as well. Geez. So I did. I always liked things like that, politics, family, marriage. I think the show did a really good job of kind of tackling a lot of that stuff. And I think more than anything too, as I kind of mentioned earlier, the frivolity of the French court. This court just wanting to have fun and party all the time. And then you have Louis off to the side, he's trying to take things seriously, but then everybody else is off having party and going crazy and drinking, or having flings and affairs with people, So I think the show showcased kind of the ridiculousness of the French court during this time period, the frivolity. And yeah, I mean, you can kind of start to understand why the peasant class, as we're kind of approaching the French Revolution and whatnot, you can kind of see why the peasant class is going to revolt and go all crazy and start guillotining people, So yeah, you're seeing kind of the beginnings of the end here with this show, and just the carefree nature that all these characters have, and all these characters think they're absolutely untouchable. That nothing can touch them. They can do whatever they want. They can say whatever they want. They can hurt whoever they want. And I liked kind of the subtle darkening of the ending. There was a darkness to the very end, because on one side you have Marie Antoinette, Louis, and their children, and then on the other side you have the entire nobility, who's just absolutely hates the two of them. Because yeah, for starters, Louis just got them all involved in a war against England, because yeah, England's at war with America, so there's all that darkness. There's a literal divide at the very end of the season, which I think was wonderfully done and edited and directed, with our protagonist over here and then all the characters we hate over here. So yeah, that being said, I definitely hope we get a season 2 with this show, because yeah, I mean, the war with England was just kind of briefly there, and there's quite a bit more to go. That's going to go into the 1780s a little bit more. So I'm hoping we get some more like cameos from other historical people. We did see Benjamin Franklin pop up really quickly, which was kind of hilarious. So I'm kind of hoping we might see, I'm trying to think if Thomas Jefferson would have come to the French court about this time period, because I know Thomas Jefferson kind of was there initially, I want to say before the American Revolutionary War, but I'm not sure if he kind of came after, if he might make a cameo appearance in the next season, who knows. Yeah, Lafayette, that'd be cool if Lafayette popped up, I don't know. I just want to see some real, large historical figures pop up other than Benjamin Franklin, because he was kind of about it. But yeah, I imagine that season 2 will be another decade's worth of time, and definitely go through the remainder of the American Revolutionary War and whatnot, and definitely probably start getting through there with the French Revolution. Because yeah, once again, my research, I believe Marie Antoinette and Louis XVI, I believe they were guillotined in 1793. I think. So I would imagine that there would be a third season, and that would be pretty much finishing up the French Revolution, and we would get the death of the entire nobility, and then yeah, the death of Louis XVI and Marie Antoinette, So I'm kind of imagining the show will go for about 3 seasons, which I think is a good, healthy amount of time. Okay, touching on some of the cast really quickly, Amelia Struhl, who plays Marie Antoinette, I really liked her. She was fun, spunky, just so all over the place, so spontaneous. I loved how she just kind of rolled with this role, because Marie Antoinette is kind of a little bit of an eccentric, wild character, and you could tell Amelia Struhl was just having absolute blast, absolute fun with her. I liked Marie Antoinette as a character. Yeah, she doesn't want to get married. Like I said, I believe she was 14 when she got married to Louis. She's a young girl. She's naive, ignorant. She knows nothing about anything outside of her home of Austria. She has spent her entire life in Austria, and here she is thrown into the French court, and she can't even have her damn dog. You guys, I love that part when Louis got her pug back. I was like, oh, thank God for the pug. Where did the pug go? Did the pug die at some point, since there was a decade of time that went by? Did the poor pug die at some point and we didn't find out about it? I loved Marie Antoinette kind of growing from this kind of ignorant, naive young woman, and she has no ideas of of the French court. I think she might kind of initially almost fantasize it a little bit, you know. And yeah, getting into this marriage with a guy who doesn't really initially even like her, you know, and she doesn't know what to do in the marriage bed. No one has ever told her what to do in the marriage bed, you know. So then, yeah, when she finally does, that kind of finally happens, it's kind of a shock to her, like, oh my god. Yeah, I loved all the drama with her and like Madame de Berry and whatnot. I loved all the family drama with all of her in-laws. Yeah, and then yeah, by the end of the show, we still have a Marie Antoinette who is really fun and spontaneous, but I think she's starting to take things a little bit more seriously. You know, she's starting to have a family. She's starting to take things more seriously. I think the politics more seriously. So yeah, I guess we shall see where that goes. Then we have Louis Cunningham, who plays Louis the 16th. I really liked his performance as well. I think his performance was honestly a highlight. Because initially I didn't really think too much about him in the first couple episodes, because his hair was always kind of in his face and drooping, and his clothes were just so baggy. He seemed so unkempt and dirty and unwashed. Yeah, he had no interest in anything other than animals, and he barely spoke any lines of dialogue in the first half of the season. Seriously, barely anything. So initially I didn't really know what to quite make out of him, because he wasn't really giving very much. But then, yeah, in hindsight, now that I have the whole season, I definitely appreciate his performance in the first couple episodes a lot more, because he kind of had to do a lot with very little. But yeah, I loved kind of his shyness and timidity in the first half of the show, and how he kind of slowly starts building up a little bit of confidence in himself and as ruler. And I loved all his scenes with Provence, you know, when he finally has the courage to kind of stand up against his brother, because it seems like his whole family has always kind of just run over him. Even though he's like the future king, everyone has always just run over him, it seems. So I liked how Louis Cunningham was portraying Louis the 16th, and I liked him. You know, I think a lot of times Louis the 16th is, I always kind of have this image in my head, like Louis the 16th is like a villain during this time period, you know, because of, you know, the French Revolution and whatnot. It's like I always see Louis the 16th as a villain, but I was watching this show thinking, well, I like this guy. I kind of like him. He's kind of sweet. He may not be the perfect ruler for France during this time period necessarily, but it's like I kind of liked him, weirdly enough. And then we have Jack Archer, who plays Provence. Provence being really rather flamboyant and all over the place. He definitely would much rather be the King of France than his brother. You definitely kind of get that vibe from him being the spare. Yeah, Provence was a very fascinating character. I thought he was going to get, I thought he was going to get killed somewhere near the end of the season. And yeah, I also liked Roxanne Duran, who played his wife Josephine. I think Provence and Josephine were a wonderful pair with each other. They both just had this kind of Machiavellian kind of nature to them, where they were constantly plotting and constantly trying to do things and just try to inch their way in and say certain things, you know. And yeah, the thing is, Provence and Josephine, they totally hated each other. You know, they absolutely totally hated each other and despised each other. But it's like they're still a great power couple within the French court, weirdly enough, somehow. And then we have Marie Antoinette's two other love interests besides Louis. You know, I think Amelia Schul had great chemistry with all of her male love interest. I think especially with Louis. But yeah, she had great chemistry with Chart, and that one guy that popped up kind of near the end, Axel Deferson, something. His name's Axel. She had great chemistry with all those guys, I think. It seems like Chart is no longer in love with her. It's like he romanticized her for so long, and then she pushes him away there at the end, and all of a sudden he's like, I hate you. So I'm curious where Chart is going to go into the next season, because it seems like he's been burned and spurned by love, you know. So it seems like that guy Axel, it seems like he's going to be the big new love interest that she's going to have some sort of affair with. Now, it's like, I know a lot about Marie Antoinette in a sense, but like kind of through name only, and then I mostly know like the French Revolution, and then she gets guillotined. But I honestly don't know too much about Marie Antoinette, like pre-French Revolution. So these various different affairs and flings that it seems like she's having, I honestly don't know where that's going and how many of these people are actually like real historical figures. I'm assuming they are real historical figures. So I'm very curious to see where that's going to go. I feel so bad for Louis. Jeez. Because it seems like he has no interest in having mistresses or affairs. You know, his love is Marie Antoinette, and it's kind of sad that she almost kind of treats him halfway because she's off having affairs with everybody else. And you know, he's loving. Louis is very much loving in his own way. And then we have James Purefoy in this show. Yeah, guys, James Purefoy is just randomly in this show for like 4 episodes, I think, and he plays King Louis the 15th, who was technically the grandfather of the future Louis the 16th. I had to look at a family tree to kind of understand how we got to Louis the 14th, you know, how we got from Louis the 14th, the Sun King, who we see in Versailles, how we got from Louis the 14th and then to 15 and the 16th. I had to definitely look at a family tree there because it was a little confusing. Yeah, I really enjoyed James Purefoy on this show. I think they used him wonderfully for the 4 episodes that he was in. I think they used him wonderfully. You could definitely tell he was having a blast, just lording it over everybody. I really enjoyed that relationship he had with Madame de Berry. Madame de Berry, just absolutely fascinating character. She's a strong, independent woman who knows how to roll the king right around her little finger, you know. She knows how to play the Game of Thrones, if you will. And yeah, her and Marie Antoinette do not hit it off at all. If anything, Madame de Berry sees Marie Antoinette as a threat, and she thinks she can kind of walk all over her. But yeah, Marie Antoinette, she has some tricks up her sleeve too that Madame de Berry doesn't quite see coming, you know. And I felt for Madame de Berry near the ends there, because she was only in like the first 4 episodes as well. I felt for her as well when King Louis the 15th died, you know, because all of a sudden she is thrown out of the court, and I'm not quite sure what happens from that point on, you know. Does she go penniless, hungry? Who knows? It's like she had everything and everything was just suddenly taken away from her. But yeah, that's kind of the tragic nature of like of a king's mistress, you know. And then just some other random characters here. Maria Theresa, who plays Marie Antoinette's mother, she wasn't really used too terribly much because for the most part, Maria Theresa was, you know, off in Austria. You know, they shared some scenes in the first episode, and then that was kind of it. You know, mother and daughter were separated for the whole thing. I like how Maria Theresa, even a whole, you know, country away or whatever, she's in there trying to rule through her daughter, you know, and constantly saying to her daughter, hey, you have to serve and do what is best for Austria. You know, you may be a French queen now, but you are also still in the service of your own home country, and you got to do everything to help balance that out and have France come to our aid and benefit us when it's appropriate, you know. So I liked Maria Theresa when she popped up. I really liked Joseph II as well, the future Joseph II, I guess, who is Marie Antoinette's brother. He actually got to spend some time with her in an episode, which was really nice. He was kind of the guy who finally got Louis and Marie Antoinette together. Finally, thank God. Thank God for Joseph. And then we have Merci, right? Is that how it was pronounced? Merci, he was like the Austrian ambassador. I really kind of like that dynamic between him and Marie Antoinette, you know, because she had nobody else from home, you know? And in a sense, I almost kind of saw him as this bit of a father figure to her. She was able to go to him when she was struggling, when she needed someone to talk to, a listening ear, and that was his role and function, you know. And he was always constantly looking out for her and doing what was in her best interest, even when she thought what he was doing was not in her interest, you know. And so I really like the character of Merci. We also have the character of Lamballe, like a lady in waiting to Marie Antoinette. You know, I'm a little confused about the Lamballe character. I liked her, but I was a little confused there. Was she in love with Marie Antoinette? I honestly could not. I don't know if I was just reading the room wrong. I honestly don't know, because I was kind of getting the idea that she was a bit in love with Marie Antoinette, like not just in love with her as, you know, her lady in waiting, but like actually in love with her, you know. But I liked Lamballe. I often felt pity for her. She was kind of like the most relatable character in some way, because everybody else is just so flamboyant and all over the place, and Lamballe's over there, you know, just really quiet and shy and minding her own business, and people would often tease her, poor thing. And then yeah, the one lady, Yolande, I guess a spy of some sort. She was a spy, always getting into everybody's business and working her way around the room. And I was a little confused there too. Was she in love with Marie Antoinette, or was that all just a game? I don't know. It seems like everybody, man, woman, whatever, they were all in love with Marie Antoinette. So is that all? I guess that's all I have to say about Marie Antoinette. Overall, I did enjoy it for what it was. Definitely a good time. Like I said, if you enjoyed the show Versailles, this is definitely going to be right up your alley. But not as enjoyable. I don't think it's as enjoyable as Versailles, but still I think worth it, and I'm hoping that as we get into other seasons, like the tone will get a little bit more richer and darker and whatnot, since we're getting up to the French Revolution. But yeah, I like this show. I thought the cast was really great. Yes, it could be a little kind of wild and crazy with the writing on occasion, because sometimes I was like, this show needs to rein back a little bit. I wish it would kind of rein back a little bit, because sometimes it got a little ridiculous. But at the same time, hey, it's the French court. You know, it's kind of known for this frivolity and chaotic nature, you know. So yeah, you guys, let me know in the comments below, how did you feel about Marie Antoinette? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Are you expecting another season? What are you looking forward to? Feel free to talk about spoilers with me down below. So that's it for this video. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you like this video, you may like these other videos. Bye, guys.